From the outside, Japanese workers look like the most loyal employees on earth. The company hires them at 22 and keeps them until 60. People stay for decades. Nobody just walks away. That's the story anyway. Now let me tell you what actually happened on my project. One morning, a young engineer didn't show up. Not sick, not late, gone, effective yesterday. No goodbye, no handover, no explanation. And he never said the words himself. He paid a company and a few $100s, and they quit his job for him. He never has to face any of us again. That's not rudeness. That's what the fear of quitting looks like in Japan right now. I'm Bucho, a department manager at one of Japan's biggest companies, 15 years in. By most measures, I've made it, and yet, I want out. And when he vanished, I couldn't even be angry, because I understood him more than I wanted to. In the next few minutes, I'll show you the 4 numbers that turned the words "I quit" into an industry. By the end, you'll see why the safest way to leave a Japanese company is to disappear. And I want to know if quitting works like this in your country too. I'll ask you at the end. This is not a news story about a strange Japanese service. This is the view from the manager's side of the desk, the side nobody usually hears from. The service is called taishoku daiko, a resignation agency. A worker pays a company. That company calls the employer. They handle the paperwork, the final paycheck, the unused vacation days. The client never speaks to their boss again, never even goes back for the desk. 10 years ago, this industry barely existed. Today, hundreds of companies offer it. Number 1, the price. Between $150 and $350 US. For most people, it lands right around $200. That's it. The first time I heard that price, I thought it was a typo. For less than the price of a smartphone, an entire workplace can disappear from someone's life. Number 2, the volume. The largest agency alone handles about 700 cases every single month. And most of their clients are in their 20s, Japan's youngest workers. In one survey, more than 60%. Number 3, and this is the one that stopped me cold. In a 2024 survey by one of Japan's largest HR research firms, 1 in 6 people who had recently changed jobs did not tell their boss, "I quit." They paid someone else to say it. 1 in 6. And it's spreading. That was 1 in 6 workers. Now flip it around. The same survey asked companies if anyone had ever quit on them through an agency. In 2020, roughly 1 in 6 companies said yes. By mid-2024, nearly 1 in 4. 4 years, 1 in 6 companies to 1 in 4. Number 4, the calendar. April 1st, the first day of Japan's fiscal year, the day new hires walk through the door for the very first time. In 2025, on that one day, a single agency received 134 requests. 5 of them came from brand new graduates, some only a few hours into their very first day of work. As a manager, I had to read that sentence twice. So those are the numbers, but numbers don't show the pressure. Let me show you 2 documented cases. One worker handed in a resignation letter by hand. The manager read it, tore it in half right there at the desk, and dropped the pieces in the trash. Another company told a resigning employee he must be possessed and made him sit through an exorcism ritual. When he still tried to quit, they billed him over $1 million for the ceremony. These are extreme cases, documented but rare. In 15 years, I've never seen anything this extreme myself. But the quiet version, the desk that's a little too clean by Friday, the resignation nobody saw coming, I see it every year. The extreme cases make the news. The quiet ones don't, and both grow in the same soil. Because here's the strange part. Legally, quitting a job in Japan is easy. Under Japanese law, you can resign with 2 weeks' notice, no permission required from anyone. But the culture never signed that law. And I can tell you, from the inside, the law was never the hard part. Here there's a belief, old, quiet, and deep, that leaving is a form of betrayal, that a good employee endures. Some trace it back to the age of the samurai, when abandoning your unit without permission was a serious offense. Whatever the origin, the code is gone. The feeling stayed. And for the youngest workers sitting under that feeling, this doesn't feel like quitting, it feels like escaping. The law says you can leave, the culture says you can't. People like me live in the gap between those two sentences. And when a service like this becomes this popular, that's not a business success story. That's a sign that something somewhere is broken. Quickly, this channel is about what corporate Japan really looks like from the inside, from the manager's chair. Now, back to that morning. A few years back, I was managing a large system development project. The planning phase ran late. By the time we hit development, we were already in recovery mode. My staff and the vendor teams working alongside us, everyone knew the pressure. Everyone knew what was at stake, and everyone showed up. That's the context. One morning, I got a message from the manager at one of our vendor companies. He'd just heard from his own HR department. One of his engineers, mid-20s, embedded in my project, had used a resignation agency. By the time the message reached me, he had already been gone a full day. I never got the chance to say a single word to him. The vendor manager wasn't angry, he was confused. He didn't know why this had happened, he couldn't ask. The agency had prohibited any contact with his former employee. The door was closed permanently before anyone had a chance to knock. When I heard it, my first thought wasn't about the schedule, it was about him. Because I've sat inside that silence myself. When I was young, there were months I worked 100 hours of overtime, and in those months, "I can't do this anymore," was not a sentence I knew how to say, not to my boss, not to anyone. So I can picture his week. The whole team pushing hard, nobody complaining, because everyone knows it's a critical moment. And in the middle of that, it hits him. I can't do this anymore. How do you say that? How do you walk into a room full of people giving everything they have and say, "I'm leaving"? In that room, leaving doesn't just feel inconvenient, it feels like betrayal. The pressure to stay isn't always someone threatening you. Sometimes it's just the room, the faces, the shared exhaustion, the unspoken message that this is not the moment. And these days, I'm the one standing at the front of that room. I'd like to think my team could tell me anything, but I remember exactly how impossible that sentence felt from the other side. So he said nothing. He called an agency, and the next day, he was gone. Here's what troubles me most. When someone quits this way, you lose the one thing you can never get back, the ability to understand what happened. What pushed him to that point? The project pressure? Something we said or didn't say? Was there a moment when a different conversation might have changed the outcome? We'll never know. The agency gave him a clean exit, and I'm not saying he was wrong to take it. The system made silence the rational choice, but it left everyone else with no way to reflect, no way to improve, and no way to be sure it won't happen again. And I keep thinking about the environments we build, where saying "I need to leave" feels more dangerous than vanishing without a word. I hope we find something better, a way through, where nobody has to disappear. And if you're the one sitting inside that silence right now, telling someone, asking for help, that is not weakness. It's the opposite of disappearing. Earlier, I promised I'd ask. In your country, when people quit, do they just quit? A letter, a notice period, a goodbye party? Or does your country have its own version of the silence? A job people don't know how to leave without losing something they can't afford to lose? And if you've ever managed people, have you ever had someone leave and never found out why? Tell me in the comments where you're from, which side you were on, and how quitting works there. I'm Bucho. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.